man, it might not always be fun to be a Dolphins fan, but sure is exciting, isn't it? I mean, the highs, the lows, you name it, we are drama incarnate. Yesterday, we get the news. People want to believe whatever they want to believe. They have the right. But Tua said he didn't have a concussion. You got to believe the man. Whatever you want to say in the backdrop, he's the guy people love, the people we're worried about, the people protect. He said he didn't have a concussion, and it wasn't based on that. So it wasn't back-to-back concussions. And that's good news. You got to believe it because Tua was saying it. So believe what you want, but on the face of it, I have to believe it as a person trying to cover fairly. This is great news, though, because that means he's not suffered some like horrific travesty on his brain. And the injury, the concussion was a travesty. And maybe, they talk about fighters that get these kind of shots. They can't fight for 3 months, but he's going to be back, according to what the NFL says. And so at least it's not the terrible, terrible news. And so it's good news that this kid's not got 2 back-to-back concussions, and he'll be back at some point. And that's good news that the team does not have this black spot as well, because we got enough of them. We don't need any more. If anybody out there wants a black spot, they can come take some of ours, actually. But then, of course, as the Dolphins do or want to do, somebody must have eaten a whole bag of black cats inside the Dolphins organization, because you go in and you find out X is not playing. Okay, but it's 2 injuries now, not 1, which is bad, 2. And so this means a long-term thing. And then Teddy goes down on the first play. And then it got personal, man. I mean, Teron just couldn't handle it anymore. I said last week his play was diminishing. He just looked hurt. And sadly, he just couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't take it anymore, and they had to pull him out. So this was just like bang, 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 bang. And you got safety, and they're up crazy points. I forgot what it was, 19-0 or something like that at one point. Jets, 19 up on us. But what I said last week against the Bengals is that this coaching staff has some nice go juice to it. And you could see, even with all this ugliness, McDaniel had 2 things I didn't like. It was probably 2 of his 3 biggest mistakes on the season in this game. But the vast body of the work was somebody who's really going to do something good down the road, now and down the road. And it's something you can build on as a coach. And the team played with a lot of heart. It was going to be very easy for this team to fold, given how it opened up, given everything involved. And they showed heart and good coaching. And I had said, these are the 2 foundations you want to build a Season A team on. But while you can show grit and be feisty and pull an occasional big win away, if you don't got talent, you're not going to win consistently. And so this game, I'm going to get into it after the break, commercial. I'm going to go over the game, and then I'm going to deal in the long-term prognosis. Because my point was, this week, for the next 4 weeks, is going to deal in evaluating the design of this team, the construction of this team, and it's going to help us understand the long-term prognosis and the designer. Now, this was not a good showing. This is not a good way to start, and this kind of makes it look like it's trending in the wrong direction. But we got to play these next 3 games out, see when Tua comes back. So we can't just say final grade. But clearly, if you've listened to me at all, I'm a bit of a bozo, but I kind of been calling some of the stuff, especially around the offensive line. And it's not a sexy type thing. It's a lot more exciting. Hill and Waddle, and it is. You could see those 2 guys were amazing players together. They opened stuff up, even our run game. But it always comes back to the offensive line. Offensive line needs to be deep and decent. Doesn't need to be great. Deep and decent. And then if you have the accentuation of the quarterback and the skills and the running back and the defense and all, but it's got to be deep and decent. And we're not deep and we're not decent. So I'm going to get into all that in a minute. How the chapters, so you guys can Stop listening to me, skip around, do whatever you got to do. I think it's only fair for you not to waste your time. So I'm working on being more consistent with that. But I want to give you guys a shout out for stopping by. It's not easy to listen to Dolphin talk after. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world, but there's some serious ramifications and serious not happy times considering the last 2 weeks after this awesome high from the Bills game. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. You guys make this show go. And I want to give a shout out to Ace Bread, my sponsor, because without you, without them, this show ain't going down. Ace Per Head's betting software is the premier white label platform for bookies to manage their players and grow their sportsbook operation. Click the link in the description below to get set up in minutes. Ask for the Curtis promo and get a special introductory discount. All right, so 40 to, 17? I don't remember. It's like blowout, right? But this game was 2 points late into the third. Teddy goes down on that first play, and people got excited about Skyler. Now, I said, you saw him in preseason. It's going to be different when he comes to the regular season. It's going to be different. And it's going to be even more different if he starts next week and they know and they're going to say, okay, this is what he does good. This is what he doesn't do. It's totally different, guys. You have to understand. It's totally, but I liked what I saw from Skyler. I think this kid has a chance to do some good stuff. But clearly, the reality is the same reality that Tua has been under for a while. Now Skyler, who's supposedly 10 times better than him. Your offensive line makes quarterbacks, makes or breaks them. Now, if you're Allen or Mahomes, you can offset it a little bit more. But he was 19 for 34, 1 interception, 2 sacks, and 1 fumble lost. And the 2 turnovers was a big turn for this game. But you can't put it on a kid. He's a rookie. And he had at least 15 pressures. This offensive line folded like a cheap lawn chair. But I'll get into that in a minute. But overall, I liked what I'm going to go back and study him out. There, some of the, that one nice pass to Gesicki deep, that was a nice pass. But then there was a couple others, slow decision making. But this is normal. We have to evaluate it out. I hope the kid starts next week. I want to see how he plays. Because I wanted to get into the new concussion rules, quick. The new concussion rules might change the way teams design their quarterback group. Because with this quick pull on concussions, quarterback depth is always played a real value. But you know what? It might change a little bit of the way things are going. So it's very interesting. So this kid's got to get in. We have to. Tua is a guy who you could see elevates his team totally differently. And his quick release, his mobility, his understanding, it's on a different level than Teddy and Skyler. Obviously, Skyler's a rookie. But he's going to have injury issues. And Skyler was supported by a heavy-duty run game. Just imagine if Tua had the same running attack we saw today, the production at least, and then you had him with Hill and Waddle. That's how you get the go juice. That's how you get special times. And Hill and Waddle are tremendous. But without this offensive line, you got problems. And Skyler is a guy who needs protection at this stage at a high level. So we can't look at his stats and say, he sucks. No. So Wilson, 14 for 21, 187 yards and 2 sacks. Skyler was like 150. I forgot to write it down. So, when you think about it, he played pretty decently with all the context. Wilson, I give him credit. He made some stuff happen. He showed a little bit of magic. And this guy, I think, is going to develop. Got to see how high the development is. But I like what the Jets are doing. They're going to be a tough team along with the Patriots, Dolphins, and Bills. So the Dolphins got to get their game together at a really good level. It's not going to be, throwing this thing together and spitting bail wired because you have Hill and Waddle, you're going to win. It's not going to be that way. So, but I thought Skyler played reasonably well. Or just imagine if he had more protection, what he could have done. So, turnovers, 2-0, big deal difference. Pens, 11-5. And this is another knock maybe on the staff. but you really got to put it on the players because we didn't see it. And we got to see how this trends out. But the turnovers and the pens really killed us, even though the Jets had those 3 big pass interference plays. Those were huge. So, game, we rushed 137, and I think they were 135. But a lot of that was flim-flammy stuff, built around misdirection, edge runs, fear of Waddle and Hill. And while it's all good, you could see the Jets were able to run on the interior with a more physical style. We had some interior runs, but Eichenberg really was another big hindrance for us. The sack fumble, I believe, was it a sack fumble? Well, I remember it was a sack that was let by him on a stunt where he was sleeping. Little gave a pressure all day. Connor's really good. Hunt is really good. And you can see most of those runs were to the right. And so there is a foundation here, guys. But we couldn't pass because we couldn't protect. We were able to run, but not with a dominating force that we needed. Because neither the Dolphins or the Jets really are great run defenses. They say 108, but there was like one game where they got like 67. So really it's more like 118, 120 a game. So we overproduced by 15 yards, which is not stellar considering our low pass outage production. So this is really where it comes down to. The secondary was open on the flanks. Wilson was able to target the deeps and the corners. And I'm going to get more into that design. But Noah, he's no good. He's a waste. He shouldn't even be on this roster. You could have a productive player. He was just a disaster. Kohu, he had a pass interference, and he had 2 missed tackles. But he's a good player. He's a good player. I like the kid. I think in this system, he might not reach his potential. Needham had some issues, but he's playing on the boundaries, and I don't think that's a winner for him. But you could see the depth of our cornerbacks, and that's based off us spending so much on Byron, so much on X, who's injury prone, and us not really diagnosing Byron's going to be out 7 to 9 months. And so who knows when he comes back? It's guaranteed money. And then we're stuck with Noah. We don't want to get rid of that guy. We don't want to cut bait. We just want to ride that till it dies. And we run a system that demands high-end corners. And I think the long-term prognostication is going to be troubling for this type of defense. And you could see some of that exposed here, both in the course of the season and during the game. But again, we go back to the offensive line. Now, these guys really showed a lot of heart. But you could see they just were overmatched. It was back and forth. They were down and they fought back. But ultimately, it comes down to the construction of the team. And I'm not really going to cover the Jets game too much because when I talk about the long-term prognosis, it's going to be revealed in this game. Now, I said at the beginning of the season, through the season, and leading into this week, offensive line is the key. Deep and decent. That's what you need. We're not deep. We're not decent. We went all in on Tehran, which I love Tehran to death, but his inconsistency with injuries really was a big gamble for a unit that needs consistency. Eichenberg, we ride and die with him, and it looks like we're going to die. He's terrible, 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 terrible. And you have to ask yourself, why are staff after staff being forced to play this guy? Little, we traded for him. We have Jackson, but Jackson's not good enough. Little's not. It's just a little bit worse. So they're kind of similar. Hunt is a good player. We ran all the way to his side. The center position, Connor playing center, he plays pretty good. But Tehran's injury could keep him out for weeks. And I don't know if he's going to be whole throughout the season. And I forgot the guy's name. We brought up, and he played left tackle, and he's not so hot either. You could scheme things, you can hide things, but at some point, you're going to come down to, do you got the horses or not? And we invested heavily on Hill and Waddle, and it's great. They're great together. But when you combine all those picks, and then you add the second and third for Eichenberg, the 18th overall for Jackson, the 2 fourths for Kinley, the third for Dieter. Why? Dieter's not even playing. Because he stinks. He's not a good player. He's not good. So you have all these trove of picks, plus all the trade-ups we used and extra picks, and we don't have an offensive line. And it's going to constrict us. It's going to hold us back going forward if we don't see improvement over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Because reality is, if we struggle here, the only reason we're going to lose is because the offensive line and this cornerback group is not good enough. Byron Jones moves on. Howard stays for $1 billion a year, but he's inconsistent. Will he play? Will he not? You're going to have to find 2-man cover corners that can operate at such a high level that you let everybody do all their fancy footwork. And if you can't, you're going to have this inconsistency. Our defense it's playing big plays, and they're playing with heart, but they're giving up yards, and they're not good on third downs, and they're really not getting the pressure they need to get because they can't leave these 2 corners on an island. And so you're running the risk right now, if you can't steady this corner position, to have to change your defense. And then on offense, the defense is based on that we're going to put a lot of points on, and then we could do our stuff, our attacks, and they're going to be in pass drops. But if you can't get ahead, again, this puts further hindrance on this defense that's already hindered because they don't have the corners. Holland's great. I like who Needham's a nice player inside. But then the linebackers, they get exposed. They're not able to shed blocks. They miss tackles. We miss tackles, so many tackles. And so this defense would be better if we were playing from ahead and we had a very potent offense. But you have Hill, you have Waddle that are allowing a lot of stuff. You have Tua when he's in with that quick release, the RPO, the play action. To get that ball so quick, increases his completion percentage, which enhances this offense. But it has to be in an environment where the pass game is not being hindered by rain and heavy wind, and you're not getting the run game going, and then you run the risk of pressure because we can't handle it. So it goes back to the offensive line. This offensive line is a long, long, long way from being right. Now, we'll see. Robert Jones, I like him as a backup. I like him as inside zone. He's out, and who knows when he comes back. And so you're pulling guys off. You had all these picks, and you're pulling guys off the street to fill in. But given what we've had to build this thing up, we went into the draft this year, and we went Tyndale and Easy, when Daniel Falalelli, Max Mitchell, Gordell Volson, all those guys were picked later, starting and playing better than Eichenberg, and their potentials to grow the depth of this offensive line and to help make it be decent and deep. But we didn't. We went for Easy when we paid for Wilson. We paid 2 first rounds for Waddle, and then we paid a ton for Hill. In a vacuum, these are all nice moves, but the chain of development of this team is sorely lacking, especially when you think about, hey, we're going to throw the football a lot. We got to pass protect. We got a quarterback who's a 5th-round pick, and he suffers from injuries. We got to protect him. And you protect him through running the football and then overt pass protection. You can scheme up protections, but it comes down to certain moments where they just have to block. And they're going to you can scheme up runs, but it's going to come down to moments, like I said at the beginning of the season, where it's man on man and you have to run block. And we're not able to do either of those. And this is a very nervous sign for the long-term health. But within that, we have to be positive because McDaniel, I like him. And I like the way the team plays around him. But if you're not getting the talent you need, you don't have the right guy. Some people will say, well, Grier, he just picks what he's told. And Okay, well, if that's the case, let's say that's the case. I don't agree, but I don't want to get into a whole discussion on that. Let's say if that's the case, it ain't working. Then we need to get a guy who can pick the talent and is not just deferring to somebody else, which is not the case. Don't believe anything these people telling you. They're lying. All these reporters, he's just a good guy and he gets what everybody wants. That's not true. It's not true. It's not true. There's quotes and also, that's not how it's even done. It's about setting a draft board up based on indicators and prototypes that the staff wants, and then the area scouts go to the local scouts, go to area scouts, and they all come together with their evaluations, and they say, this guy fits the bill, this is what he wants, and then they build a board, and then the board is on draft day. So it's not about one guy picking it, it's about setting up the draft board. But that draft board's created through the area scouts, the local scouts, the head scouts, sending up their informations, the profiles on the players, and then it's all coming together. So even if Grier is the nice guy who's just go, then it's not working. It's not working. And we have to find something that works. To me, McDaniel works. To me, there's a lot of good players on this team that work. But we got to get a guy to run the ship the way it needs to be run for success. And that guy, whoever he is, needs to draft well, but especially on the offensive line. And until that happens, at least in this one moment here, what I'm seeing and what I've been saying for a long time, we'll give the rest of the season, but this is a strong indicator of that. Good news is, at least we have McDaniel. And if he can get the talent around him, I believe he can be successful. We'll see how he handles the downward trend or the bumpy road. And then we'll see once he gets successful, if he's in the successful moment. But this guy has shown a lot. And a lot of people won't hear it, but Flores did too. But he had stuff. He was compromised from ownership. He was compromised from the GM. He was compromised in talent. You telling me he wanted to say and send Flowers away in a trade? He didn't want Karras? Come on. So there's a lot more that's going into this. Flores, you might not have liked him as in the overall thing, but the guy had a lot of hindrance to him extraneously from outside his staff. I mean, he didn't even determine to put two in. But you could say, I like McDaniel better. You could say, I like his style, I like what he's doing. And I can go with that. I can buy into that. This guy is showing some stuff. But until he has an offensive line, look what he had in San Francisco. They went to get Alex Mack as the center because they knew they needed a guy to run the zone stretch. They got Trent Williams. They had, what's the guy's name? The guy is on the Jets now, the left guard. They had loads of talent. It wasn't just scheme and construction. So we'll see how it goes forward. This is a strong indicator right here that we have some really good elements, but the very core of the team is not even close to the place it needs to be. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it's not the case. It's 3-2. We got the Vikings coming up at home, and then we play the Pittsburgh at home, so we can win the next two and be 5-2, which is a great spot. But let's play it out. The next 3 games, hopefully Tua comes back and he's healthy sooner rather than later. As long as he's healthy, that's the key. And see how it plays out. But keep your eyes on the offensive line and blocking. Curtis saying, thanks for staying to the end. Please like, comment, subscribe. Comments mean the most. Catch you guys soon. Don't write any checks. This is my evaluation. Maybe it'll get better. We'll see. Curtis saying, catch you next time. See you soon. Be well. Start building your own online sportsbook today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.